Good evening and welcome. I'd like to call this February 17, 2020 public hearing and regular school board meeting of the Board of Trustees, San Felipe Del Rio CISD. Madam Secretary, would you call roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Contreras,
Present.
Ms. Guanajuato Webb,
Present.
Ms. Haynes,
Here.
Mr. Mesa,
Here.
Mr. Overfelt,
Present.
Mr. Smith,
Present.
and myself. Sir, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Let the record show that we do have a quorum of board members and that this meeting has been duly called in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. At this time, we will have opening ceremonies. We will stand for a moment of personal reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We will follow our agenda. First item we have on our agenda is recognitions, fine arts recognitions, Ricardo Rios. Mr. Ricardo Rios. Oh, okay. We have the choir that will be singing. We're honored to have the high school choir under the direction of Mr. Josue Gonzalez. Thank you for performing. What an excellent performance. Thank you again. We have students that represent us so well throughout the state. You do so well for us. Thank you. Next item we have on our agenda is item 4B, Career and Technical Education, CTE Month Recognition, Mr. Roger Gonzalez.
Good evening, Mr. Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. Career and Technical Education Month, or CTE Month, is a public awareness campaign that takes place every February to celebrate the value of CTE and the achievements and accomplishments of CTE programs across the country. This year's theme is Celebrate Today, Own Tomorrow. The opportunities for students in CTE continues to increase with additional courses, industry-recognized certifications, competitive projects, and additional CTE dual credit classes. We are thrilled that over 3,300 students are taking advantage of these opportunities in our school district. CTE spans across 7 different campuses, including the CTE Center, and offers courses in 26 programs of study. There are student opportunities to develop skills, be creative, become college and career ready. In CTE, students also have opportunities to compete at the district, state, national, and even world arenas. This evening, I am proud to recognize my students, ambassadors, and CT administrative team. Here with me is Ms. Christy Barrera, CT coordinator, and Ms. Carolina Cardenas, CT counselor, who will also highlight part of tonight's CT presentation.
Good evening, Dr. Rios and members of the board. I feel very honored to be here with you tonight. Each year, every CT capstone course teacher selects a standout student to represent their program. This elite group of students are known as our CTE ambassadors. These student ambassadors represent the program in many events throughout the school year. Some of these events include our annual advisory board meetings, our DIY night, as well as elementary and middle school career fairs. In addition to this, they serve as leaders and mentors to other students in their program. They truly are the best of CTE. Tonight, we recognize their hard work and love for their program. Tonight, representing our building trades cluster is student for architecture and construction is student Andres Ordaz. For electrical, we have student Alan Fuentes. HVAC, Dulce Amor Guajardo. Audio and video, Camila Flores Ayala. Business and Finance, Andrea Arredondo. Education, Madison Perkins. Representing our Health Science Cluster for CNA, we have student Mariana Saucedo. EMT, Victoria Rios. Medical Assistant, Hannah Garcia. Phlebotomy and EKG, Michael Fragile. Hospitality, Lisa Garcia. Human Services, Damiana Hernandez. Law, Janice Beto. Manufacturing and Welding, Bianca Landa. STEM, Adam Rivera. And Aircraft, Abraham Rodriguez. And now we'll have Ms. Barrera share a few words.
Good evening. CTE Department would like to thank each of the school board members as well as our superintendent for your continued support of our programs. As a token of our appreciation, the welding students have created personalized gifts for each of you. We hope you enjoy them. Thank you again for all that you do.
As always, as board members, we're so proud of our CTE program that it grows every year in offerings and course offerings and certifications. And we know that these students are going to do well in life because they start working immediately once they get that certification and can further their education with their employment. So again, thank you, Mr. Gonzalez, for being the CTE director and offering our students that opportunity. Next item we have on our agenda is item 4C, recognition of Campus Teacher of the Week, Aidea Garcia.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. We are proud to introduce our Teacher of the Week for January the 6th through January the 31st. The Teacher of the Week incentive program is designed to spotlight our most dedicated and talented teachers. These teachers have been featured on our website and other social media, and tonight we will recognize them and present them with a certificate. For Teacher of the Week, for January the 6th through the 10th, we have Del Rio Middle School, Mr. Cesar Echavarria, Social Studies teacher. Principal is Mr. Jorge Jurado. And if you just, now with Dr. Lonnie Green, we have Mrs. Esmeralda Cardenas, 4th grade teacher, and her principal, Mrs. Cheryl Pond. From Roberto Bobby Barrera Elementary Step Magnet, Priscilla Nguyen, third grade teacher, and her principal, Laura Sandate. Teacher of the Week for January 13th through the 17th at Ruben Chavira Elementary, Mr. Anthony Leonor, he's a music teacher, and assistant principal, Mr. Jose Rodriguez. Teacher of the Week for January the 20th through the 24th, we have Buena Vista Elementary, Mariana Gillum, fourth grade bilingual teacher, and her principal, Mrs. Jennifer Sutton. From Lamar Elementary, we have Mrs. Sonia Sotelo, reading and dyslexia intervention specialist, and her principal, Mrs. Iris Oka. Teacher of the Week for January 27th through the 31st, from Irene Cardwell Head Start, we have Miss Amanda Padilla, pre-kindergarten teacher, and her principal, Alana Talamantes Elizondo. From Del Rio Freshman School, we have Miss Deborah Salinas, English teacher, and presenting tonight, we have Dr. Jose Perez. From San Felipe Memorial Middle School, we have Mrs. Gabriela Valdez, special education co-teacher, and her principal, Maribel Flores. Thank you again for everything you do for our students. At this time, we're going to go ahead and take a group picture, and if we can have President Mr. Mesa and Dr. Rios join. So if you want to step up a little bit. Thank you.
As you can see, we have awesome teachers as well. They do a tremendous job for us. And I know a lot of these teachers that have so many years of experience and do a tremendous job. But again, thank you for the job that you do. And I hope you have a steak dinner tonight again. Next item we have on our agenda is item 5, citizens to be heard. We have none. Next portion of our meeting will be a public hearing. We go to item 6 on our agenda. The 2018-2019 Texas Academic Performance Report is called TAPER in accordance with TEC 39.306. Ida Gomez.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. One of the requirements under federal laws and state laws that we present the annual performance report. There are 7 components to this report that must be discussed. It is a lengthy report. The binders were sent out last Thursday. The 7 components that are required are, of course, the TAPER, which is the Texas Academics Performance Report, the financial status of the district accreditation status, the district performance objectives, any special education compliance status, the update or report on violent and criminal incidents, and performance on our students that have gone off to college and who went and how they're doing. So those are the 7 components that we'll be discussing this evening. First of all, we'd like to report that as a district, we have earned a B rating. You'll see that on the slide in front. There is one component, one area that does need assistance, and you'll see that under special education for 2019. Later in the board meeting, we do have a presentation on the results-driven accountability system. It's the former PBMAS. And you'll actually be able to see there in detail where exactly it is that we need some assistance in special ed. So we'll start with the actual assessment reporting system. You'll see that in 3rd, 4th, and 5th, our scores came out. Across the top, there is a state column right after the year, there is a region column, and then the district column, followed by all the populations that are measured. When we hit from 4th grade down to 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, all the way through 8th grade, you'll start noticing some yellow. The yellow highlights indicate one of 2 things. If it's the 3rd column, that is our district score. And if it's highlighted, it means that we made increases from last year to this year of at least 2 points or more. In some areas, you will see 8 to 10 point increases, and I will point those out. Now, for instance, in 4th grade reading, you see 2 highlights. That means that at this point in the meets category, the district is actually higher than the region. So anywhere that you start seeing 2 or 3 highlights, it's because we're actually comparing ourselves or showing that the district did have higher results than the region or the state. You'll see in 4th grade math that we did have some gains. In 5th grade writing, from a 51 to a 56. And 5th grade reading, from a 78 to an 80. Now on the next page, you actually start seeing some more highlights. You'll see 5th grade math. The district was ahead of the region in all approaches, meets, and masters. You'll see in 5th grade science the same thing. The district is ahead of the region in approaches, meets, and masters. In 6th grade, the same thing. The district is ahead of the region in approaches, meets, and masters. And in 6th grade math. We go down to 7th grade reading. You'll see that in every component, 7th grade campus outperformed the prior year's reports or results. And in 7th grade math, it's the same. In 7th grade writing, you'll see an increase from a 59 to a 61, for instance. In 8th grade reading, you'll see a meets from an 18 to a 30. So again, they're not just meeting the approaches level, they're actually reaching the meets levels in these areas. If you continue down the page and you look at science, you'll see some large increases in science. From a 56 to a 68, from a 28 to a 35, and from 11 to a 14. In social studies, you'll also see some larger gains, from a 50 to a 54 for approaches, from a 19 to a 23 for meets, and from a 9 to a 12 to masters. When we get to end of course English 2, English 1, you actually see here that the district is outperforming the region, a 65 to 64. But a bigger highlight is that compared to last year, they were at a 58, they bumped up to a 65 in approaches, 7-point gain. From a 33 to a 43 in meets, and from a 2 to a 6 in masters. So again, you're starting to see more than a 1 or 2 point gain, which is showing that the teachers and the instruction is actually more rigorous, and it's meeting the levels that the state has put out. We continue on with English 2. You'll see here that in English 2, the district is ahead of the region. They had a 66, we had a 71. And then you'll also see for Algebra 1, in every area, the district outperformed the region, a 77 to an 82, a 48 to a 56, and a 25 to a 31. As we go down for U.S. history, very high standards. We have matched the region at a 91%. However, in the meets and in the approaches category, the master's category, we have outperformed the region. When you look at page 7, that actually compares all grades for math. And you'll see again that as a district, we have outperformed the region in approaches, meets, and masters. In science, you'll see gains in all categories, as well as in social studies, from a 69 to a 73, from a 42 to a 47, and a 23 to a 27. Last year, at the beginning of the year, we presented to you the plan of action when we presented the campus performance objectives. And we discussed how, as a district, we would be focused on student achievement, which is Domain 2. Remember those Domain 1, Domain 2, and Domain 3. Domain 2 is a two-part, and one of them is the student achievement. You'll see here on this slide that as a district, Domain 2 was very successful. It starts in grade 4 for reading and math, and you'll see that in all areas, the district outperformed the state and the region. You'll see it in 5th grade reading and math. You'll see that the district outperformed in reading compared to the region, but in math, compared to the state and the region, the district did outperform. In 6th grade reading, again, you'll see that when we're compared to the state and the region, our district did score a much higher rate. In 8th grade math, we did outperform the region. In English 2, we did outperform the region and the state. Then at the very bottom, there's a section, and it talks about both subjects, then all subjects, then ELA and reading, and then math. So in all subjects, San Felipe Del Rio came in at a 70, the region came in at a 66, and the state at a 69. So again, the district outperformed. In ELA and reading, just those two subjects, you'll see the district came in at a 68, tying the state and ahead of the region. And in math, the district came in at a 72, ahead of the state at a 70, and ahead of the district at a 67. It continues where you see the yellow highlights. You'll see there in math again, the district outperformed the region and did tie with the state. I'll continue on to page 11. If you have any questions as I move through the pages, please interrupt or ask, please. I'm just going to move on as needed. You'll see here on page 11 that we have all grades for math, and again, the district outperformed the region. You'll go down to science and social studies, and while we did not score higher than the region or the state, we did have some big gains. So from a 70 last year to a 75, from a 38 to a 43. And in social studies, from a 69 to a 73 and a 42 to a 47. I know you remember that each year we come before you and those areas seem to be stagnant. It's a very difficult test for both science and social studies for 8th grade. So it's good to see that they're actually making 5 and 6 point gains. You'll see again the school progress for the domain for all grades, both subjects, ELA and reading, and then math, and you'll see that the district outperformed both the region and the state in all areas. The next pages, which are 14 through 16, discuss the annual dropout rates, the 4-year and the 5-year longitudinal rates, and graduation information. It was all included in the board binder, but if there's anything you'd like me to touch on, and that would be pages 14, 15, and 16. I will just state that on page 15, you'll see some highlighted yellow. We had a different graduation system several years ago, and we still have some students that fall under it. It was like the foundational programs, and now it's more of a pathway for graduation. But that's what you're seeing there in yellow. If we go to page 17, we just had our CTE students present you with a token of appreciation. And here you're going to see some of their successes academically. So as you go to page 17, at the very top, you'll see college and career readiness, annual graduation, or graduates. You'll see again that the district is outperforming the state and the region. Very small margin, but we are still outperforming them. You'll see dual courses. Now in this one, the district is at a 37%, whereas the state is at a 20%. So there's a large gap there. Our on-ramps is again successful. We're at an 8% compared to the state at a 1% and the region at a 2%. When we get down into career and military readiness, annual graduates, San Felipe del Rio is at a 52%, while the state is at 28% and the region at 37%. Again, there's some more information that's highlighted. You'll see the U.S. Armed Forces, you'll see the graduates with advanced degrees, and then a level 1 or level 2 certificate. On page 19, you will see the coherent sequence. That just means that students actually have a four-year pathway. They start as freshmen and they actually graduate in their pathway. You'll see that the district came in at a 78.7, the state at a 58.4, and the region at a 72. Continues on with some AP results for our students in 11th and 12th grade. Again, you'll see some nice highlights. And your ACT and SAT information. On page 21, the report does indicate the advanced dual credit course completion for grades 9 through 12 is at a 53% for our district. The state is 10% lower at 43%, and the region came in at 41%. English language arts, 36.9%. The state is at a 17.3%, as well as the region. Social studies at 27.7%, compared to 22% for the state and 16% for the region. The next 3 pages, pages 19, 20, and 21, actually just talk about the TSI, the SAT, the ACT, any information showing what tests our students are taking and prepping for. It'll show you the grade levels, just student information. Down. Okay. That is the first component, which talks about our Texas academic reporting system. If y'all have any questions on any of those before I move on, or I can go through the rest of the 6 components quickly and save the questions to the end.
Save it to the end.
Okay. Component 2 talked about the PEAMS Financial Standards Report. As reported earlier in the year, they did receive an A superior rating, and it was recognized in the TAPER report. Component 3 talks about our district accreditation status. As you can see here, again, A superior for our finance, a B rating for our accountability system, and our accreditation is accredited. Component 4 talks about our district performance objectives. You'll see that in 2019, we were targeted to make an 80. We actually came in at an 86. In 2020 this year, we're targeted to score an 88, so that in our 3 years, we would reach an A at a 92 in 2021. Component 6 is the report on violent and criminal incidents. The report indicates that we had none, and it is there by the different campuses. Component 7 talks about performance of previous year's graduates in their first year of college. Again, we show that in school year 2017-2018, we had 606 graduates. Those students entered college in the fall of 2018. 124 went to a 4-year college, 211 to a 2-year public college, 10 an independent college or university, 15 were not trackable, and 246 are not found. It also includes, at a glance to the right, their GPA for their first year. Those are the universities where the students enrolled in. Just some more information. We do have several campuses that earned a distinction. You'll see Early College High School, who earned 2. San Felipe Memorial Middle earned 1. Lamar had 3 distinctions. Ruben Chavira had 1. And Roberto Bobby Barrera STEM Magnet had 1. And those are the TA distinctions under the state accountability. Just a history of how the campuses have performed for the last 12 years. You'll see going back all the way to 2007, 2008, when we were testing with tax. And that gives you an idea of how the campuses have performed from then to now. And then the last slide just talks about our SAT and ACT participation. You'll see the class of 2019, 425 have taken the SAT. Took the SAT, and 45 took the ACT. You'll see the PSAT had 517 students participate. We did have 4 National Hispanic Merit Scholars last year. And we did have awards, scholarship offers of 4,909,835. And then you'll see that the FAFSA applications were 429 out of the 606 students. And that is a summary of the 7 components that are required to be presented in a public hearing. At this time, if you have any questions or any slides, the principals are here, the directors are here, or I can answer any question on anything that I presented.
Yes, we have questions. Mr. Smith?
A lot of congratulations to go on in this package. So good work, and please keep that up for our kids. If I was to focus somewhere on the dropout rate, what's driving? I know we've got some great programs to keep our kids in school, but though that's those are increasing and not good at a state level nor a region level. So,
That is correct.
yeah. And if there's a focus that we would look at for 2020, well, I guess this is only showing 18 data, right? So we're still in 2019, I guess. But,
It is 1 year behind, you are
yeah,
correct.
yeah. So I know y'all are focused on it, but anyway, something worth noting.
The dropout rate starts in 7th grade, so you are correct. We are focused on it. We do meet with those principals, and we have a cutoff.
Yep.
The snapshot is the cutoff, so we have to find those students before they ever get to that level. That is part of the dropout, and then, of course, at the high school level.
Is there a chance some of that's unknown? In other words, kids go to a different state or something like that, and we just don't record it, or is that not the case? I don't understand how the data's.
Yes, sir. There is a possibility if a student returns, for example, to country of origin, and they didn't let us know, and we can't find them, and we can't find anybody to tell us they actually moved back to whatever country they came from, then we take a hit as a dropout. So there is some of that, but we couldn't tell you with a high degree of certainty how much of it.
Yeah, very good. Good job. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions on that side? I'd like to share my thoughts on this. First of all, I'm so glad that we received a B rating, and great things are happening at Lamar. Lamar, when I looked at the scores, that should have been what? Buena Vista, because you have, again, lots of resources at Buena Vista that you don't have at the Lamar area, but they have 3 accreditations. Great things are happening at Lamar. It's awesome. Their score of a B is great. I know we have great teachers there, and the administrator did an awesome job of making sure that the Lamar excelled. I wish that would have happened in the affluent areas. It did not. But what is happening in blended is to be commended as well, because we're getting students to graduate. Bobby Barrera, early college, high school, 6th grade math, accreditation there. We are getting better as far as the region. We're comparing ourselves to the region. When I look at the state, reading is still somewhat behind. State also has a larger percentage of masters in all areas. And going back to the question that Mr. Smith asked, I know that I followed that from previous years, and I know that students were being allowed to go on to the next grade even though they did not meet the criteria for promotion, whether it was scores or whether it's passing the STAR test. So that stopped. But I know that it's going to take a while for that to get any better, because when they reach freshmen, if they don't have those skills necessary to earn the credits, that's what ends up happening. They end up dropping out of school at freshmen. So that is being addressed, but it'll take a couple of years before we get to see the improvement in that area. The concerns is again, closing the gap with the bilingual students. We didn't focus on that on this report, but I did see that there's a big gap. I don't know why Cardwell was scored. It's never been scored before.
I'm sorry, sir, if I may. We're always required to link Cardwell with a campus, just for the sake of them getting a rating. It has absolutely nothing to do with any type of achievement at Cardwell. They just require us to link it with a campus.
So what campus did we link it?
I believe we linked it with Lonnie Green.
Lonnie Green.
Lonnie Green.
So whatever Lonnie Green earns,
And the other,
mirror.
okay, the other concern that I bring up from previous years and again this year is that our attendance keeps going below. We had better attendance last year than this year, and I hope that gets to improve. We do have the personnel that can make home visits
Yes, sir.
and locate these students before they end up accumulating large numbers of absences. But again, I'm glad that we have a lot of good things that we can say that we're doing a great job. Because CTE, again, we saw the students that are getting so many certifications, and Mr. Gonzalez does a tremendous job of bringing more courses in and more participation. It is going in the right direction. We have room for improvement, and by all means, we'd like to be an A campus or A district and have A and B campuses everywhere through the district. But again, there's some work to be done in certain campuses, but what is happening at Lamar is outstanding, because that is, I know the neighborhood. That was my first school that I had as an administrator, and you don't have the resources that you see in other schools. That is a low socioeconomic. It's been proven that those students can do it, and the teachers did a tremendous job, and I just want to applaud again Lamar for doing a tremendous job.
Yes, sir.
Questions? Ms. Webb?
I also want to commend the campuses. We do have great improvements throughout the district. However, as I look at the whole taper report, I noticed that we did not discuss third grade, and a lot of our scores are lower in third grade throughout the district. However, when I look at fifth grade, I noticed that reading at fifth grade is above 87%, except for 2 campuses. They're all in the 80s except for 2 campuses. The math is in the 90s, 89 and 90s, except for 1 campus, 100 at STEM, this Bobby Barrera STEM. But we also know that they test less students, so we have less students to worry about there. But Lamar, as far as the science is concerned, they're up at 87%. So we have to stop and look, what are the campuses doing, and how can they help each other so that all students are successful? And our goal is to get all students, like at the STEM campus, where everybody is at 100%,
Yes,
or at least very close to 100%. When you addressed the social studies at 8th grade, I just wonder, what is it that can be done through the elementary campuses that address those items that are tested at the 8th grade, so that 8th grade does not have 50% passing in social studies, when I know that there's things in elementary that can filter through and do a cross-lateral assistance to 8th grade. So those are the things that I noticed throughout the taper report. I am very pleased that we are moving forward and making improvements, and we did surpass the region in a lot of areas. However, I would like to see us surpass the state. If the state says 80, we're gonna go above that, because San Felipe del Rio has to be #1 in all areas. And we have the teachers to prove it, and we have the administrators that can do that. So again, congratulations on the improvements that we did throughout the district.
Mr. Orfeld?
I know it's a whole lot of information that's in there, especially when you look at the binders that we walked in. So thank you for putting it together. As many have already said, there's definitely areas for improvement, and I have no doubt that the district will focus on those areas that the board has expressed and need for growth in. As my fellow board members have said, in the area of dropout and graduation rates, and third grade, fifth grade reading, writing scores that Ms. Webb was talking about there. But also, again, to congratulate those elementaries that did really well, in particular Lamar, to go from 2 stars last year, or 2 awards there, to 3.
Great.
I think shows that there is something very good going on at that campus, and perhaps administration needs to go in and look at what's occurring there. Big thank you to the principal who was there while all that was going on, and Ms. Flores, and to Ms. Oka, who is now running the school. I'm sure you'll continue on with doing the greatness that is there. And particularly thank you to the entire teaching staff and support staff at that school. Again, might be something to go in and do learning walkthroughs at that campus to see what's being done to lead them to be the only elementary with 3 stars in, as Mr. Mesa said, one of the most socioeconomically depressed areas of our entire district. There, I think that speaks volumes. There, great things have been done. There are some areas to improve on, but I have no doubt that we'll continue to improve on that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Contreras?
Well, just like everybody said, I mean, as you can see, we're trending in the right direction. Obviously, we've made a lot of improvements, and we're on an upward trend, so that's great, and that's reflection on, obviously, the staffing, the staff, the schools, the principals, so great job, teachers, principals, schools, I mean, we've seen the areas where we need the improvement, and now we just have to focus on those areas. Like Mr. Smith said, you know, the dropout rates is a concern, but, you know, it's nothing that we can't overcome. But other than that, great job. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you again. Any comments from the public? Dr. Rios?
I wanted to just make a mention of a couple of things that I hope that we as a team of 8 can focus on moving forward. If we consider the growth, we consider the improvement for the district, you know, there are some particular programs that we can point to. And there are some particular trends that are very easily identifiable. And you know, for the last few years, we've been talking about creating smallness, so that teachers can collaborate and students can collaborate. And the best examples we have of that smallness is at Lamar, at Chavira, and at the magnet school at Laughlin. Those are our smallest campuses that all 3 achieved a high rating. So as we move forward and we talk about what we're going to do with Cardwell, and I know there's one item later on today, I want to really stress how important that is. If we look at the history of Del Rio and we remember when North Heights was located on 10th Street and it was a real small school and everybody wanted to be there, well, you achieve that collaboration when you have that smallness. It just comes so much easier. So I want to encourage the board as we move forward to decide what we're going to do with Cardwell. If we're going to keep an additional school open when we build a school to the north, that's what we're trying to create, that smallness. So I really hope that we're able to achieve that so that every school can come as close as possible to being a neighborhood school, because that really is the first and most important step in student achievement. That smallness to create collaboration. So I hope we achieve that here within the decisions that we make during the next 6 months, and I think that we'll continue to trend up. But as a superintendent, I definitely want to thank the board for all the support and everything that we've done, whether it's the planning protocol, the additional days for RTI, for teachers to plan, the work the principal has done, the work the CIO has done, all the collaboration of the teachers. It's just nice to have consistent growth for a number of years, and we hope to continue to do that. So thank you.
I just want to say again, as board president, my members make everybody shine because we're focusing on the needs, the achievement. You know, we want our students to excel in every area, so we're all focusing on student achievement, and that's great. I just want to say again, the Great Placement Committee with administration making that change of those students that need to go to summer school and earn their credits and earn their status to move on to another grade level is making a difference. Also wanted to acknowledge 8th grade science. They've done a tremendous job as well. I saw the scores go up quite a bit.
Yes, sir.
Thank you again.
Thank you, sir.
Next item we have on our agenda is item 7, board members report. Because our agenda contains so many items we're waiting for the next month, I think we have a couple of board members that will have a report, Mrs. Gonzalez, and I'll do another one on grassroots, if I a short report. So we have no board members report. We go on to reports, discuss the process and options for the San Felipe de Oro CISD school calendar process. Aidea Garcia.
Good evening again, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. As you're aware, the District Planning and Decision-Making Committee meets to come up with options for the school calendar. This year, it was difficult to come up with two options because the teachers, the committees, really like the calendar that we have this year, so they want to replicate that calendar. So just to let you know what the timeline looked like, on January 15th, the District Planning and Decision-Making Committee met to discuss the options. Then on January 22nd, we shared the options with the principals, directors, and cabinets for feedback. On December the 5th, the District Planning and Decision-Making Committee submitted back to our department any feedback from the campus in reference to the two calendar options that the committee came up with. On February 13th, we discussed the two options with the Laughlin Parental Liaison, and tonight we're going to share those two options with you for feedback. And on February 24th through the 26th, we plan to disseminate a survey for the selection of the final calendar option. And on March 16th, we'll present it to the board for approval. When we look at the calendar, there's certain parameters that we look at, and the first one is that the calendar must include 187 teacher duty days unless that's changed by the board. And this is in reference to the board communique that was sent to you in reference to Senate Bill 2073. We also have to have a total of 75,600 instructional minutes, which can include 5 days of professional development, which totals to 2,100 minutes. Those are our waiver days. Then through those minutes, we have bank days, which we don't have to designate a bad weather day. The district, again, is a district of innovation, so we do start a week earlier. And teaching staff usually recommends to complete the first semester prior to winter break. 4 staff development days, which is the week before the students start school. We include 3 work days, the 5 staff development waiver days that we mentioned earlier. And we have to honor Memorial Day, which this calendar that we're looking at, the school year would end on the 27th, the teacher workday on the 28th, so that would not have to be a holiday only for our 226 employees. And then also, if possible, allow some RTI planning days. The holidays that we honored this year and we want to continue to honor is September 7th, Labor Day, November 23rd through the 27th is our Thanksgiving break. Then winter break, December 21st through the 31st, as well as January the 1st. Then spring break, depending on the colleges, we have a tentative of March 8th through the 12th. April 2nd would be Good Friday, April 5th, Easter, and May 31st, Memorial Day. We also have some non-teaching dates, which if you see here, this is August 10th through the 14th, that's our staff development. Then we have a work day, August the 14th. September the 14th is a staff development waiver day. Then October 9th, RTI data PD day. October 12th is a staff development day, and it's a Columbus Day holiday for the students. November 11th, it's RTI data. And January 4th would be considered a work day. January 5th, RTI. January 18th, Staff Development Day. That would be Martin Luther King Day. February 5th, Staff Development Waiver Day. February 15th, Staff Development Waiver Day. That's President's Day. March 5th, RTI. And then May 28th would be considered a work day. Then, as you are aware, the RTI planning training days, these are days that allow principals to meet with the clusters departments to look at data, benchmark, and after the summatives. Then students at that time, they change tiers for interventions, and it's planning for the teachers as well. For the non-classroom teachers, then that is when if we have additional training for them, instead of pulling them through the school year, then we use these days to train them. And let me bring up the calendars. In your board packet, you have this is option 2. Let me bring up option 1. In your board packet, you have this option, and this is our working template, just so that we can see where every 6 weeks starts and ends. And this one, as you can see, the first semester ends before we release for the winter break. We have the 6 weeks instructional days listed here. So it's total of 171 instructional days. And then for the teachers, there's the 4 staff development week, the RTI, staff development waiver days, it's 5, and then the 3 work days for a total of 187. Similar option 2, and again, a lot of the teachers already came from the committee, already came back and said, you know, the majority want to go with the option 1. But one thing that a lot of teachers also ask is that they want to balance the 6 weeks. So this is a little bit more balanced, but it does not finish the 6 weeks. When we come back from the winter holidays, it continues. So that's why they prefer the first option. But we're still going to go ahead and send out the survey, ask for comments from the staff, and see what the outcome is. But at this point, we wanted to get feedback from you.
Questions? Mr. Smith?
I'm gonna pass right now.
Mr. Contreras?
Yes, can you go back to the actual days of the holidays? Because I didn't see, and I see the November 11th as an RTI day. Can we include that as an actual holiday that we observe? Can we make an effort? I think we owe it to our veterans to honor them, you know, not only the employees within the district, but everybody, especially having Laughlin Air Force Base, and this being a federal community, basically. I mean, can we make an effort? It's always been a question for me, and why we don't honor Veterans Day completely off.
Okay.
Dr. Rios?
Mr. Mesa, Mr. Contreras, members of the board, we always try to maximize as many of the holidays and which ones we give and take. There's a couple of important items that we don't want to miss. One of them is obviously finish in time before May is over. The other one is try to average the amount of instructional days between one semester and the second one. So we can look at what holiday we would trade off, but it's always going to involve a trade. And so that's why we ask the committee members to weigh in. It's going to be one holiday versus the other. And we've tried to be as understanding as possible when a veteran wants to go participate in the parade. We don't make them take a day off. They just simply tell the principals, hey, we're gonna go and come back. But we will definitely look to see if there's some options to trade and just share how the committee feels about it and then present that to the board as well, because at the end of the day, it's our board that approves the calendar. But just know that if we're not able to do anything, we are as understanding as necessary with veterans who want to participate in the parade or other activities.
Thank you, sir.
And we'll add that field box to get input, some more input from the staff.
Yeah, and I just want to add that we do want the teacher, to make sure that we get input from every individual at the campuses and just hear them out. And I think they can work out things better than us because they're the ones that see what is going on with the different holidays. And it would be, when I see, for example, when you have the Christmas break that you don't finish the 6 weeks, I mean, there's time lost there that you're not going to have the students have a test at the end of the 6 weeks and they've forgotten what they need to review and those things. I mean, there's got to be some resource, some accountability in the areas, that in those days that they'll be taking a break. So again, just as long as they can get as much input from all the staff. And Mrs. Webb had a question.
It's not really a question, it's more or less a comment in relation to what Dr. Rios was saying and Mr. Contreras regarding Veterans Day. So I know that last year some staff members that were veterans were allowed to participate in the parade or in the veterans activities that they had not been in the past. And in past years, we did have Veterans Day off and then we didn't. I mean, so it flip-flopped back and forth. But I know that it would mean a lot to our veterans, whether we have it as a holiday or whether the veterans are allowed to participate in the veterans activities. We know it's in the morning, as long as they sign in. They go in the morning, sign in with their principals, and come back after the activities are over, because it's a great part of the community. Right now we have the Vietnam Wall that's coming to Del Rio, and that's a big plus for the Vietnam veterans as well. So I think that one or the other, as long as the veterans know that they do have, without having any kind of repercussion from the administration on the campus, that would definitely help.
Anyone else?
Just
Yes.
last comment. I know that we, at least I did, I'm sure others did, received an email from Whitehead Memorial Museum concerning the archaeology fair. This year, an RTI day fell on that Friday that normally we would send students to it, and it played some havoc there. And I know the Whitehead has always been a big partner in some of the educational field trip stuff that we do locally. If administration can reach out to Whitehead Memorial Museum to see when archaeology fair is this year, and is it going to, we're good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome, that's all I want to know. Thank you.
Thank you again. And Amy, did you have a comment?
I do, Mr.
Okay.
Mesa. I just want to make sure that the teachers do come back and everybody gets some time on this, because the bill, the SB, I can't see, 2073. So they all know about that and what it entails and all that. So this committee that meets, they understand that bill and what it entails and stuff.
Regarding the update that I shared with
Yes,
y'all, I think that everybody knows that, at least now they do, that it's an option, but it's not an option for them to recommend.
Right.
It's an option for the board would have to direct us to reduce the days, or that administration would make that recommendation. I've shared with y'all that administration is not going to make that recommendation because we need to focus on student achievement a little bit more. We don't think we're quite there yet, but if administration wants to discuss that, then by all means. I just can't right now, knowing that we're not an 8th grade at campus, start to say, well, let's just work less.
I understand. I just want to make sure that teachers do get a lot of, and, you know, they do fill out the forms and they do have their input on the calendars the options that are available. So it's really important that they do.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. And I'm glad, I just want to say that I'm glad that we had district participation in the Martin Luther King Day, because in the past years we have the private schools have, student attendance, but we had some groups that showed up this year, and I'm grateful for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item we have is item 8B, 2019 Results-Driven Accountability Report. Ida Gomez.
Good evening, Mr. Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. For the last, I don't know how many years actually, we've had a report called the PBMAS, the Performance Monitoring System. This year, the federal government has changed it to something called the Results-Driven Accountability. It still measures the same 4 departments, or same 4 programs, I should say. It measures your bilingual ESL program, your CTE program, your ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act, or Title I program, and also your special ed. So those changes those components are still the same. The Results-Driven Accountability System, or RDA as it is now known, is a local education agency level data-driven monitoring system. It's developed and implemented annually by the Division of Review and Support in coordination with other departments within the Texas Education Agency. Now, they've been working on this and they have some guiding principles. And I did list the 7 guiding principles below. They did have a partnership with stakeholders. They have had webinars, they have had meetings, they have had surveys, all of this information with different stakeholders, including public comments. They want to develop a transparent and understandable system for educators and families. And I think that's the key from what I read, was they want to make it simple for families to understand a much simpler system. They do have informational guides that they're working on and reports that will make sense of the new system. They want it to drive improved results. And again, it's to assist the districts and to make everything a little bit more equitable. They want to protect children and families with alternatives that analyze the performance of school districts with small numbers. And you'll see just a little bit more on that in just a few minutes. They want differentiated incentives and supports for LEAs. They want to ensure that a low performance in one area cannot be offset by high performance in another area or lead to interventions in a program where the performance is high. So in other words, they don't want to stage you when a lot of people are doing well just because one component isn't. So now it's going to be a lot more split amongst those 4 programs. They want to establish high expectations. They want to promote high expectations for all students in the LEA. They've established something called a cut point. The cut points are very complicated formulas. The manual does have a complete section for each of the 4 areas and every indicator, and there is a formula for each one of the cut points. And of course, they want to be responsive to the needs. They say it's a dynamic system in which indicators are added, revised, or deleted in response to changes and developments that occur outside the system, including new legislation. I don't know how long the PBMS report has been in existence, but that I know of, there hasn't been any changes in a very long time. So a couple of very important changes are that the term staging, under the PBMAS, they would stage you a 0, a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4, 4 being needing the most support. That's been removed. Now we're going to see something called performance levels. And then also there's going to be specific changes to every indicator. And I'll kind of show you those in a moment. The ongoing implementation of the RDA will include the addition of new indicators, revisions to current indicators, and deletions of indicators that are no longer necessary. So it sounds like it's going to be getting the input and then making the changes as needed. The actual performance levels, those are the result that occurs when a standard is applied to the LEA's performance in an indicator. So in other words, before, even though they wouldn't stage you, they would rate you. So now they're giving you a performance level. And it can be anywhere from a 0 to a 4. But I want to explain just a couple more items. So you'll see 0 or a 0 SA, 0 RI, which is required improvement, a 1 or a 1 SA, which is special analysis, a 2 or a 2 SA, a 3 or a 3 SA, a 4 or a 4 SA, and a significantly disproportionate criteria. The RDA indicators are reported for LEA information and planning purposes, and I think that's where they're trying to support the districts, giving you enough information so that you can plan adequately to continually improve student achievement. It says generally after a period of 1 or 2 years of being a report-only category, you will be rated at that point because they feel like they've given you enough time to plan a clear pathway. The SA under the indicators, because before we would only see a 1, 2, 3, or 4. What they've done now is we have categories, for instance, let's just take the migrant population. If you don't have enough students in a year, if you didn't have 25 migrant students, then you didn't get rated, so you got no data. No rating, no data, even though maybe you had 9 migrant students. So under the special analysis, what they're doing now is they're taking 2 to 3 years of information from last year and the previous year, and once they can come up with a 25-member cohort, maybe 9 this year, 9 last year, and 9 the year before, then they analyze that with a formula and they give you that performance level. So in other words, how are you doing with them instead of, oh, you didn't have enough for us to rate you. The RDA performance levels and cut points. The indicators include a range of performance levels, and each performance level range has an established set of cut points. I'll be able to show you those in one of the reports right now. Throughout the RDA indicators, the higher the performance level, the lower the local education agency's performance is. So of course, we want to stay within the 0 and 1 range always. As part of the annual RDA development cycle, the cut points for each RDA indicator are evaluated. A decision to adjust the cut points for one or more indicators is based on some of the following criteria. Whether the state or federal goal has been identified for the indicator, whether performance of the state on each indicator at the time cut points are set in, expected and actual improvement on the indicator over time, like are we showing trends, amount of improvement reasonable for the indicator, an overall impact on the RDA system of adjustments to the cut points, the RDA system's guiding principles that we just went over, the other consideration that could affect performance on a particular indicator, and internal and external input. So now we get to the actual chart that shows the 4 programs, and you'll see at the very top, you'll see bilingual ESL. The 9 next to it means that we have 9 indicators that are going to be evaluated within that program, and you'll see the 1 through 9 going down. You'll see CT has 6, ESSA or Title I has 20. They have 2 columns, and the special ed program has 16. Throughout that report, you'll see a lot that say new, and they're in red. Everything that's new, listed in red, is a report-only category. So while it's listed, we're not going to show any performance levels for those. And you'll see those in the reports in just a moment. We do have some, for instance, if you look over at special ed, on the very right side, 12, 13, 14, and 15, those are report only, even though they're not new. So the state is saying, I'm only going to report it. Y'all need to look at that indicator, come up with a plan, because either next year or the following, you will have a performance level. Anything in bold board members, anything that you do see in bold is something that did get rated this year. Anything that's new did not get rated, and anything that says report only did not get rated. So the first report is the bilingual report, and you'll see that you have a lot of report only. Each one of the criterions is listed at the top. Wish I could make it larger, but I can't. So up at the very top, you'll see where it says bilingual star, 3 through 8th grade passing rate, and they're going to be evaluating math, reading, science, social studies, and writing in this one indicator. This year it's report only, and it goes down to ESL. It goes down to ESLs not served. I think we mentioned once before that they will be looking at ESLs for 4 years after they exit the program. Wherever you see a circle in blue, that is an indicator that was rated, and we scored well. You'll see this one, it was rated, and that's ELs, or our English language students, years after exit. So they're scoring very well. We're all in a 0, which is where we want to be. You'll see over on the right side, you have EL's annual dropout rate. It's at a 1. And then you'll see the EL graduation rate is at a 2. Earlier I mentioned we want to stay in the 0 and 1 category, so this 2 is something that we need to look at. I believe that's how the report is helping us plan. Like it's saying, hey, target, it's a 2. It's not a 4, but it's also not a 0. So then we go into the CTE, and remember earlier we had talked about special ed and needing some assistance with our special ed students, and I think this report's going to help you see exactly where we need it and why. You'll see that the CTE had, I believe, 6 criterions. And the first one is the STAR EOC passing rate. Overall, it's all at a 0. That means as a whole, we're doing very well. All our students that are in a CTE course, who take an EOC course, exam in math, science, social studies, and English, are doing very, very well, all 0s. You come down to ELs, and again, it's report only for our bilingual students. You go down to economically disadvantaged, all 0s, that's excellent. We can't get better than a 0. Then we come over to criteria 4, which is CTE Special Ed Star EOC passing rate. So that student was already calculated in number 1, but now, because it's a program, we're actually identifying all the students who are identified as special ed, who are in the CTE pathway, and now we're analyzing their results. And you'll see here, in math we have a 3, in science we have a 3, and in English language arts we have a 3. That's red, it's a big area of concern. Then you're going to go to the annual dropout rate, which is a 0, and the CTE graduation rate, which is a 0. Next we go to the ESSA, the Title I. Again, everything that's circled is something that was evaluated. You'll see everything else is report only. The blue circles are okay. The areas of concern are in red. We have one area of concern with our migrant students. It's a 3SA. We don't have enough migrants to give a performance level in 1 year. So again, they've taken information from previous years to calculate the special analysis. And even at that, our migrant students as a whole did not do well. So they're at a 3. And then also you're going to see the EOC passing rate. It's 1s. That really should have been in blue, because a 0 or a 1 are places that we do want to be. That's the rest of it. You'll see a lot of report only. Starting from 9 all the way through 20, it's all report only. They're either new or they're just not giving us a performance level this year. Now we get to the special ed, which is our 4th program of evaluation under the RDA. You'll see here, special ed star 3 through 8th students. Earlier it was high school. Now we're looking at even elementary and middle school. a 2 in math, a 3 in reading, a 3 in science, a 3 in social studies, and a 3 in writing. You'll see below the special ed year after exit did okay. So you've got the CTE, now you have the 3 through 8 special ed, and now you have the special ed star EOC passing rate. And again, these are just not CTE students, they're just special ed students. And you'll see a 2, a 3, a 2, and a 3. So under the CTE program, it was our special ed population, and under the special ed program, it's our special ed students that are taking assessments, that are struggling. Because of this, our special ed program was staged, or received a performance level of a 2 overall. A strategic support plan was submitted to the Texas Education Agency. It was required that we submit a plan of action. We did work with Dr. Perez, Dr. Aguirre, Roger Gonzalez, to create a plan because those students can be at any one of those centers at any time. It was submitted on February the 5th to address the performance level of the CTE Special Education Star EOC passing rate, which was indicator 4, and the Special Education Star EOC passing rate, which was indicator 3. You'll see here, this is the report that came from TEA. On this side, you have special populations, and right here in the overall performance, it says CTE had a performance level of 1. Our EL program had a performance level of 1. Our ESSA program had a performance level of 1. Therefore, they met the requirement. If you come over to our special ed report, you will see that an overall level 2 was assigned to our special ed program. Therefore, we have a DCSI, a district intervention specialist. We had to engage in continuous improvement, which we know, but we also had to submit a plan of action to TEA for approval. So that's why you see the yes across the 3. This just shows you that in our bilingual program, there were 28 criteria, indicators, that can be analyzed. They only rated 6, and they had an average or a mean of 0.5. In our CTE, they actually have 18 indicators. They rated 14, and they had a 0.6 mean. Our ESSA has 55 indicators. They rated 17 this year, the rest are report only, for a mean of 0.6. Our special ed had 30. They did rate 21 for a mean of 1.3. You'll see it's almost at twice the rate of the other means. And that pretty much describes the changes from PBMAS to the RDA. Same programs, no staging, but definitely performance levels, and just, I'm going to say more indicators, because everything that you saw was new has been added. I'll go back to that sheet. Yes.
Questions? Mr. Smith?
Oh, you could, I mean, it was kind of complicated to start with.
Sorry. It is
Now it's
complicated.
like, holy smokes. I'm not smart enough to ask a question. So I'll pass.
Okay. Ms. Webb?
I just want to say I like the report. I like the way it was presented. And I just want to thank Dr. Aguirre, Dr. Perez, and Mr. Gonzalez for working. I guess they worked with you or with a team
Yes.
of teachers, I'm assuming high school or GCTE or?
I'm not sure who was on their part of their committee. Miss Adams and myself were on our part of the committee.
And I'm glad we don't have any 4s, and we're already working on the 3s.
Yes.
And the 2s.
And the 2s.
Yes, ma'am. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just want to say, it's always been PPMAS. For me, it's pretty much the same thing. I know that special ed was years back giving us some issues in regard to the ratings, but it seems to be something we address every year, but it's getting better. I know that in past years we've had 4s, which the bilingual was 1, and I'm glad that we don't have any 4s. But progress is being made in a lot of the areas that migrant, special ed, and so forth. Anybody else? Any questions, comments? Thank you very much for the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mesa and Board.
Next report that we have is item 8C, cybersecurity update. Mr. Henge.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. Tonight we will discuss our cybersecurity response. As everyone's aware, we did have a outbreak that took place on February 8th, and we're just going to run through what that looked like this last week, what's been accomplished, and where we're looking at moving forward here. So with the cybersecurity protocol, we're going to dive into the incident overview, communication hub that took place, initial response, impact to technical systems, board policy for emergency procurement, insurance coverage and expenses, and after action review. So this Fortinet live threat map is what we can use to kind of simulate all of the attacks that typically we're able to fight and combat and not have them come into our system. We literally fight thousands of hits every hour, actually. But as we were doing a cybersecurity migration on early morning of February 8th, one of those got through. Fortunately, we had technical resources that were already engaged in the system. They identified it and started making some calls. The particular one that we did get infiltrated with was the Ryuk. It's a high-risk ransomware type virus that infiltrates the system and encrypts stored data, thereby making it unusable. Through our process, we were not able to find a ransom note. Typically, there is a ransom note that would come up on some of the computer screens, but we immediately went into action once the communication was going as to what we had found. The communication hub that we used for this, it started out with the consultant had identified the infection, which he was already working on a migration about 2:30. 3 o'clock in the morning. He reached out to our network administrator that was in charge of the cybersecurity deployment that we had board approved, I believe last month at the meeting. Once the network administrator started looking into it, I received the call. We started literally having boots on the ground within a matter of hours that Saturday morning. Once I was able to start assessing some of the damage and what we were looking at, I reached out to the superintendent. And from there, we did a communication to the Board of Trustees. Legal department was then notified. The FBI was notified. As time went on, we brought in our public relations team to put together a formal statement. TEA, of course, had to be notified of the possibility of a file breach that we had. SFDR staff was notified before we did a press release on social media, and then of course local media resources received the official statements as well. So there was a lot of communication that went on through this. Some of it is mandated, and some of it was just we wanted to make sure that the right people were engaged so we could make decisions that we needed to, because timing was of the essence when this happened. Again, the initial response, we disconnected known infected areas from the network, trying to segment and isolate where the files were coming through. We looked at high-risk campuses. Our antivirus software that we had did block the virus from coming through or from it being able to execute. However, we were still in a deployment phase of that, so there were 4 locations that we identified that were high risk that we didn't feel had enough protection. At that point, we had disconnected their internet access immediately at the data center, and then we deployed people out to those locations to start going through each machine. As we identified some that didn't have the protection, we disconnected them from the network. Not only did we have to identify where this infection was, but we had to contain it and then work through a remediation process to be able to get it cleaned up and then ultimately try and have services restored by Monday morning for school. We contained and assessed the damage at the data center. A lot of our data center servers were impacted by this. Fortunately, we did have redundancy in place with the servers, so we lost 3, but 1 still kept us going. We had about 4 main components at the data center that kept this from turning into a very disastrous type of event. We immediately began rebuilding systems. Communication strings were going on at this point. I was out on site when we were going through this. We called in more resources. Our in-house technology staff was there. Members from Weaver Technologies, SQL Data Systems. We had engineers from Bitdefender Antivirus that were dissecting the virus that we found so we could make a determination, was it just encrypting files, or if it was actually trying to send information out to the internet. Fortunately, everything we see tells us it was just encrypting files. We have no reason to believe at this point that any information was extracted. Since then, we've heightened our firewall parameters, and we've put a lot of measures in place as we've been rebuilding systems to help reduce the risk of anything further happening. The systems that were not impacted were mainly our cloud-based solutions, to include Skyward application, Office 365, Microsoft Cloud Storage, Planning Protocol Dashboard, instructional applications that are used, various ones throughout the district, minimum network services, and our IDPA backup solution, which was part of that Dell cybersecurity solution. We were 2/3 of the way through that deployment when this happened. So fortunately, what was in place worked, but we still had a couple other components that we're in the process of installing, and those should hopefully be done this week. The systems that were impacted include our Active Directory infrastructure, our main domain controllers that we use to log into computers, network file storage for staff and student folders, district printing services, computer labs throughout the district, internal IT management systems, and an estimated 300 workstations had to be re-imaged. As of this afternoon, all systems are back up with the exception of the student V&T drives, which are used in the CTE program. We're still bringing more network file storage back online, which is a Z drive for the staff. I'm getting reports that some departments are getting their folders back today, so this is kind of an ongoing process right now. We're down to an estimated 150 workstations. And internal IT management systems, we put those kind of at the bottom because we can continue to work on those items. So this is listed as far as prioritizing what's most important to the students and staff. Total hours that we're looking at yet are roughly 280 hours to get us back to where we were before this event happened. Now, through this process, we noticed that our procurement process really didn't have much language in there as far as dealing with the cybersecurity situation like this. So tonight we do have an item to provide a resolution declaring emergency for bidding purposes. pursuant to Section 44.031 of the Texas Education Code in order for school personnel to correct the problem in a timely manner caused by an emergency situation, the board must first declare that an emergency exists. So in the event this were ever to, happen again, we need to have this policy in place so we feel that we're doing it the right way. Timing was critical. Whenever these files do get encrypted, you're literally working against the clock, and you need to get those resources in as quickly as possible, get everyone engaged, and get this thing contained before it spreads across the network. We have roughly 5,000 computers on the network, and as you can see, we had a minimal impact, but it was still very disruptive. We've had a lot of people working around the clock on this. Insurance coverage and expenses. We do have 2 insurance policies that we do not pay for, but they are provided by TASB. The first one is for a data breach response. They have a canned solution, if you will, for data breaches, where they would cover up to $100,000 for forensics, legal fees, and notification expenses. To date, we have not moved forward with that one. We're still having conversations on it. Third-party claims up to $100,000. And those costs that I'm working directly with representatives over at TASB to get those pre-approved before we move in that direction, but that's mainly going to be reimbursing our first responders, which in this case, we're projecting about $30,000 to Weaver Technologies and another $5,000 to SQL Data Systems. Both of those, at this point, I have received notification that they will reimburse us under the third-party claims. We're hopeful by the end of this week, we're gonna start engaging in the after-action review, which involves the technology department reviewing the series of events that occurred, and we'll have some recommendations in the upcoming weeks. Some of that may be workflow changes, reprioritizing some of our initiatives, obviously doing what we can to reduce this risk to not end up going through this anytime in the near future. Questions?
Yeah, I'd like to allow everybody time for questions, but just want to mention this conversation we had last month, and I'm glad that there were some things already in place. As I mentioned before, it's not a matter of what, but when it was going to happen. As we were in San Angelo for the grassroots meeting, they announced there that one district was out of something like close to $2 million because they responded to what they thought was a vendor. And so it's happening everywhere, but I'm glad we had some things in place that you put in place. I know that there were a lot of employees working overtime and restored some of the systems, but my question is, for example, robotics. Their program is not up and running with the files yet.
The V&T drives, which they do use those in the CT program, are not up and going. I'm not sure what type of impact that has on robotics. I'll be meeting with them tomorrow. I have reached out to Mr. Gonzalez on that. I found that update out right before the board meeting tonight.
What about student labs?
Student labs, I believe they came up about 2 hours ago. So I have people out checking those right now.
Were you able to restore the files, what the work that had been done?
The only files that we've not been able to restore at this point are the V&T drives, but I'm not sure how much those are being used. I'll have more of a answer on that one tomorrow after I meet with the staff.
And other thing that I wanted to mention is, the entities, the city, county, they've been hit with certain, cybersecurity issues, but what I want to make sure that we have in place is that those conversations after the fact, that we have things in place to make sure that we learn from this experience. And It will happen again, but I just want to make sure we do get ahead of the game and prevent these things from costing us tons of money. I'll start on this side, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, thank you for the diligence. I mean, you and your team, your reaction and lack is stellar, and I appreciate that. Going back to the policy update, can you get more in detail with that? Because I'm confused about what you're trying to do there. It seems like you're trying to add another layer which would delay instead of expedite, is the way I'm interpreting it. But
Dr.
if you
Rios?
could explain that.
I'll answer that. There's a couple of things that we want to accomplish. First, we are going to eventually get reimbursed by the insurance people for some of it, but we went ahead and we procured the services without board approval, which we traditionally do. So part of that resolution is y'all declaring that it was an emergency and that we're okay having done that. Go back one slide, Les. I'm sorry, probably 2 slides. Okay, so then the other part is this issue here. We still have some files to restore, some computers to restore, and in the next couple of days, Mr. Henge has to assess how fast his team can do all of this work, and then we need to move forward and either ask Weaver Technologies to send us some extra help. But we can't just do that because Mr. Henge first he has to manage all the moving parts. So when he's ready for that, he might say, we need 8 more technicians so we can get this emergency under control and restore all the files that are needed. But that's all that we're asking for your permission to allow us to move forward with that.
Okay.
Without board approval. And of course, we'd be reporting any expenses that we take related to the emergency. It's all provided for in board policy, but it all requires for the board to actually declare that there is an emergency. So we're asking for forgiveness for the retroactive expenses we've already done in combating this emergency and asking for a little bit of leeway moving forward so that we can cover some of these items up there.
Thank you. That helps me understand what we're trying to do.
Anyone else? Questions? Mr. Contreras?
Yes, do we plan to have or get an outside auditor, independent auditor, to look at our weaknesses as far as the firewalls or servers and anything else that could have been affected?
We've had a whole lot of contact from vendors across the state, and everybody knows somebody, but even the insurance policy, go to that slide, Les. The reason we haven't acted on those forensics that are identified in that first 100,000 is because they're gonna do work for 100,000, and then they're gonna come back and say, really to do this completely, we really need to spend about another $60,000, and then that comes out of our pocket. So after Mr. Henge and his team assess everything that happened, then we'll provide a thorough recommendation to the board as to what other components for early identification may be necessary and how much we can gather. But in Mr. Henge's visits with people that have been attacked before, they really can't figure out where it came from. And they can't even identify this student or this teacher double-clicked on this attachment. So it's very difficult to just open your doors and let all these outside people come in because they're all gonna charge. That's why he needs about another 30 days to just say, okay, this is all that we've learned and this is what we'd like to incorporate. But that'll come within the next 30 to 45 days.
Mr. Rurfeld?
I just want to comment on good job to your team and to you. We're lucky to have you, sir, because it could have been a whole lot worse, like you said. And then, as Mr. Mesa stated earlier, we not a question of if, but when. And I know when we were at TASB this last September, myself, Mr. Mesa attended I remember going to 2 of those sessions that talked about how easily this can go in and happen, especially through email, phishing, and stuff like that. So I'm glad last month we were able to go in and put the stuff in place. It's probably a really good deal that we had it in place because of what happened. So a big thank you to your team and keeping it from what could have been much more disastrous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One,
Yes, Mr.
one
Ortega.
last thing, do we have fishing exercises on our staff?
We're currently reviewing some IT training that has to be done for Senate Bill 820. It's required. And that's what I was working on before this event took place. So I'll be going back to that, but definitely educating staff is going to be key to this as well.
And I just want to say that I'm so thankful for the board attending training sessions, because this is where we find out what is going on across the state. It's happening everywhere. But I'm glad we had the conversation last month. We didn't have everything in place, but we started to. My final question is going to be, what is it going to cost the district overall?
Well, at this point, we are still assessing. I don't anticipate these numbers growing too much at this point, but again, we need to assess and weigh out how much of this we can do with our in-house staff. So we will have those numbers shortly. I have no reason to believe that we're going to go anywhere near that $100,000 mark, but we definitely have some solutions that we want to look at and present and get some feedback on how we can make our system even more secured. So we're working
Dr.
through
Rios?
that.
To restore the district back to where we were prior to the malware hitting us, we don't expect that it's going to cost any more than what the insurance is going to pay. Unfortunately, we have to get all that approved, and TASB has recommendations on how they would like for us to spend that money, so we have to tread slowly and lightly. The part that we're never going to get back is all the hours that people that don't get paid overtime were there, 12, 14, 16 hours since it happened. Now, how robust of a system we build moving forward, that could cost us another $500,000, depending on how robust we want to become, adding different components. We've had people offer us components for as little as $5,000 a month to bigger components, one-time purchase of $50,000 and $70,000. That's where the real expense is going to come in. But I can tell you with a high degree of confidence that the system that we already have in place is much more robust than other districts have, and it's keeping above the expectations that have been set for us by other models that have been created. But obviously, we can make it stronger, but I think that we have to wait and see what recommendations Mr. Henge's department comes up with in the next 45 days. Right now, we just ask for permission to continue to spend money that should be reimbursed.
So the bulk of expenses will be on man hours.
Either man hours and it's mainly contractors that I'm going to, Mr. Henge knows that hourly people can come in, but really how many hourly people do you have that work in technology?
We have a handful of them. A lot of them are non-hourly.
Yeah, it's mainly contracted people like Weaver Technologies. They're rebuilding the servers remotely. And they're building right now, they've only built this 30,000. Now, I think that in the next week, Mr. Henge and I may come to the agreement that we just need to have them send us people to put boots on the ground to go help us rebuild some of the labs or scrub some of the files that he still hasn't released because we need to make sure they're clean. But it's mainly going to be contracted hours with providers like Weaver Technologies.
And the other question is, I want this conversation to continue, the update. The other question I have is, for example, the achievement level of students, because they go to the labs, again, to make sure that there's continuity in making sure that, again, they do well on our exams that we take. whether it be STAR or end of course, get their credits and so forth. But in regard to labs, could you report to us as to how many are down and what they're doing in between?
Yes. Again, at this point, we do believe the majority of them are up. We do have some testing, I think, that goes on this week, so it's at our highest priority right now, but I can definitely get the number to you.
So
I can report it tomorrow, as early as tomorrow.
So the labs were
The labs
today.
are coming back up today, yes.
Today.
Every hour things are changing yet. It's been that way for the last few days.
Yes, if we can continue the update
Yes, sir.
as we progress. Okay, thank you.
Sorry,
Mr.
Question.
Mesa, Les, what about also educating our staff as far as using only authorized USBs, connecting our cell phones into the systems? That sort of stuff also goes a long way. Because all too often, we want to charge your phone and plug it in, or bring in a USB, download a file into USB, and we go and put it into our system. And that in itself opens the door to what possibly could have been the gateway.
Sure, we definitely need to work on partnering technology with CNI departments, so when we have those staff training days, that we get some time in there to discuss some of those things that people need to be aware of to help reduce the risk. For sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to focus is training, prevention, that kind of thing, because you've got some good protection devices that you've got in place and that you're going to add and enhance the system, but that training is that's where it's at, right? If somebody did something that weekend and allowed somebody to infiltrate, right?
Yes.
That training piece would be critical.
And I just want to say again, I want to thank the board members for attending training, because this is where we learn, get what is affecting the schools, and I'm surprised that we didn't get that ransom note. But just want to reiterate what Dr. Rios has told me, that he's very confident in the work that you do, Mr. Enge, and your staff, and so we're glad that we had some provisions in place that could have been worse. Thank you.
Thank you.
This time we continue with reports. We go to item 8D, Facilities and Instruction Report. Mr. Hinckley.
Okay, the Facilities and Construction Report for the month of February. This month, we'll be looking at the progress at Dr. Lonnie Green on the driveway expansion, Buena Vista on the driveway expansion, Del Rio High School 800-900 wing, the last piece of the ESCO project, dining hall and common area ceiling design, and Del Rio freshman restroom renovation, as well as life skills renovation. Dr. Lonnie Green Elementary, the driveway expansion has been completed. This overview here, this design rather, shows the red area where we put a perimeter fence around to be able to keep the students inside the covered waiting area. And at this point, we're considering this project done, and it's done on time and within budget. There's a photo, you can't see it too well, but that's all new fencing that goes all the way down to the perimeter there, as well as chain link fence in front. I believe the gate was being installed today, and then we have the seating area for the students out back. We will be doing a canopy for the walkway later on this summer. Buena Vista Elementary, we will be presenting this is the schematic design, and that'll be coming up later. So we'll be bringing that to the board tonight for approval, and we're projecting that the site preparation would be around 6/8, pavement work around 7/17, and walkway fence work around 8/7. So this would be one of our summertime projects, if approved tonight. This drive is going to be constructed out of concrete, because it will be used for a fire lane, and it needs to be able to support fire trucks and things like that if they need to come around the backside. But this would allow for parent pickup to come around the back and then exit over on Echo Valley. Excuse me.
I'm sorry, Mr. Henry.
Yes.
After the consent items, these will be the second items on the agenda to approve these schematic designs. So this is a presentation. If there's any questions on the schematic designs that we're presenting, we have Mr. Edwin Martinez here for the Buena Vista project. We have the architect for the high school commons renovation area. And is Mr. Rodriguez? I'm sorry, Mr. Right here?
Mr. Pena wasn't able to make it tonight. No.
We have Mr. Chapa here who can speak to
Right.
the restrooms. So if there's any questions, this is the schematic design presentation.
And I believe everyone has copies of them as well as we go through and look at them. So
Yeah, explain that walkway. I don't get that on the design.
For the Buena Vista here, the driveway.
The walkway. You're talking about a walkway fence.
On the edge of the driveway, there will be
right there.
a fence. Now, how big the walkway is going to be, I don't think there's a walkway at all. I think that's a misprint. It's just a fence. Is that correct, Mr. Martinez? Thanks for that, catching that. It's just a fence to keep kids from running out there.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question.
Yes, sir.
We've always had a problem with drainage. Is it going to affect anything in that moat that we did around the school? We kind of did a moat.
We'll get Mr.
Without
Martinez
alligators.
up here to answer some questions.
Okay, good afternoon. Yes, we are considering to catch all of the drain on that area and to take it down to Amistad Boulevard.
So that's a concrete?
Yes, the concrete will have some entrances for the water to enter the road and be disposed of in Amistad Boulevard. You got some playground areas there and some building areas that will drain into that.
Okay. Because I know we've worked on that for years until we built something that worked. Thank you.
So can you get into more detail for me on the concrete versus asphalt? Is that
Yes, this is going to double as a fire lane. So we are going, suppose, God forbid that happen, that we have to have a fire engine crossing to there. The concrete will sustain the load of the fire engine. We have to comply with that load requirement.
okay? Cost difference between a concrete and it's half, 50%, 75%?
Well, at this point, we're expecting at least 100%, double with concrete.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Any questions?
The 8900 wing is coming along for the ESCO project. We still have heating and air conditioning equipment going in there. Networking, we had to redo all the network cable in there because it wasn't code compliant. So we're cutting out all the old, replacing it with new. That's in progress. Hallway lighting is in progress. Of course, HVAC installation. And we're projecting to have this project done next month. Now we have a slight presentation here on the high school for the ceiling renovation.
Mr. Henge, can we invite the architect just to describe for the board what they saw on the video? And if you can introduce him, because I don't think he's...
This is Mr. Cantu from ERO Architecture.
Good evening, Mr. Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. My name is Octavio Canton with ERO Architects. The video that you just saw is a representation of what's proposed for the cafeteria at Del Rio High School. It is some acoustical treatments on the ceilings. You can see those. The tan areas cut kind of up here on the facets of the concrete structure currently. We have some new lighting. We're introducing a sprinkler system, some new wall sconces on the columns. The flooring that you all have already purchased would be installed as part of this project. I believe that tile is already somewhere stored. Some new wall base. We've got some. We've tied this into some of the work that's been done previously. Let me see if I can get this thing to stop. We've got some paint on the ramp walls. We've got some wood caps to finish those off. The tile that was purchased extends to the sides of the library, so that'll be finished over there. The acoustical treatments, again, are these tan areas on the ceiling. You can kind of see the sprinkler pipes going across. The new lighting, LED lighting. So the idea is to help attenuate some of the sound that's currently in that space and give it more of a finished look.
Can you show that wall, that video wall?
Back here, this is a slatted wall. The depth of the slats are sufficient to go ahead and frame out the video walls that are being proposed for that area. And that wall is also being extended up a little bit higher than what it is currently. There's a lot of HVAC equipment up there, so that would help kind of hide some of that. I'll just kind of, take the video step by step so y'all can kind of see it not moving, and if y'all have any questions. The tables that you see, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, have already been purchased for that area. The kiosk that you see back here in the corner has already been constructed and it's installed. So that's not part of this particular project, but it's currently what you've already done in that area.
So those orange panels, those are the gray is the existing ceiling, and then these orange acoustical panels get adhered to or how does that work?
They're direct attached to the underside of the deck, and then we'll paint the entire thing so that it has a uniform finish.
Okay, so the gray it just remains the existing concrete ceiling, and then those orange are just panels that get adhered to the
underside of the
underside, and then you're going to take those are round columns today, and you're going to put something around and make them. Is that right? They're round or they're square?
I believe they're square currently.
Okay.
They have some little light sconces on there. We're going to go and replace those, and then put new floor base.
Okay, and then that new lighting that's got some type of special conduit system and they're going to hang like
an aircraft cable, just little cables, and the power come down from there. There are some current lights in there, so we'll probably try to utilize some of the existing J boxes to minimize the exposed conduit. So that would be the first choice, to try to use what's there and drop new lights in there.
Okay.
I just want to say it's a big improvement over the current way it looks. It looks awesome. Very inviting.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
No, just whenever it's done, we can open up to the community and invite them to go and see the project itself. I mean, it's looking beautiful, and those of us that attended Del Rio High School are going to see a big difference. So open it up to the community and invite them so they can see what we've done.
we've gone through different renditions. The paint that you see was initially supposed to be some more acoustical boards, but to be within budget, we asked them to make some decreases. So instead of putting acoustical boards around the kiosk area and around the ramp area, we switched to paint. We just kept the acoustical boards on the ceiling. In the future, if it's still not silent enough, well, then we might consider coming back and putting acoustical boards there. But for now, we went with paint to reduce the cost of it.
Well, I think it looked, the appearance is awesome, and I think accented with wood and the tile, the tables, everything looks great.
I guess we did have a hypothesis that it was going to be unbearable noise, but I'm not sure if we ever validated that. Is it that much worse today than it was last year?
It's noticeably louder,
Okay.
but it's not one of those things where you got to cover your ears up or where kids are hurrying up and eating and getting out. It's just louder than what it should be.
Yeah, I've been in there once this year, and with a fair crowd, and it wasn't like, you were deafening.
No, it's not definite. It's just louder than what it should be. A-Lunch is particularly the harder one because that's where that has more students.
Yeah.
But this will definitely take care of it.
Awesome job.
Thank you.
So the way the tentative schedule is on this, again, we're going to see if we can get the majority of it done over the summer. That's pretty aggressive, but that's our target right now.
And that goes all the way around the library?
Yes.
The flooring does, yes.
Well, the flooring and the ceiling.
Yes, and the ceiling, sorry.
The patterns on the ceiling
Yes.
go. The sprinkler system is only in the dining commons area. But as far as the flooring and the work on the ceiling, that goes all the way around, including inside the library, they have acoustical boards in there also. We just don't change the floor in the library. That stays the same. Is that correct, Mr. Chapa?
The next project that we have with schematic design is going to be the restroom renovation for Del Rio Freshman Campus. We're tailoring this pattern after all the restroom renovation work that we did at the high school. So tile's going to be the same, color patterns will be the same. The sinks, I believe we ended up doing a substitute, but they still look a lot alike. Just to kind of bring the cost down a little bit on the magnitude of the project. But Hector, can you come on up here and just be ready to answer some questions? So for this first one here, we are looking at doing an overall expansion of the student and staff restrooms at that location. I believe it's a total of 4 sets of restrooms that we're going to be doing and a whole set for staff. Currently, the restroom situation over there, I know I've reported on it in the past. It's in pretty bad shape. So in the ELA building B, rather, we will be expanding, or we're proposing to expand those restrooms to give more options for the students. The overall counts, I believe, are about the same, right?
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, board members. There's an increase to the female students' restroom by 3 stalls or 3 fixtures. The male students will remain the same fixture count. The addition would be for the staff. In this particular building, there was no facilities for staff members, and they will have now.
We will be reducing 1 classroom in that building to allow for this expansion. So they'll have 1 main restroom area, and then in the other 2 buildings, I believe it is, or 2 buildings.
There's another set of bathrooms in this building, in Building B, that's also going to be renovated, as well as the 2 additional buildings. Current existing bathrooms will be renovated.
And of course, these will be all ADA compliant once they get done. The current ones are not, so there's a lot of upgrade and additional square footage to be able to meet those code requirements.
I just want to say that for those board members that have worked in different areas, we were always short of staff restrooms, and I'm so glad that you added some additional ones, because these are the people that stand in line, and that we don't have enough facilities for staff. Glad to see that.
We definitely heard their concerns on that one. Questions on that one, or?
We do have the handrails and ramps for these buildings, right? I mean, to be the ADA compliant outside as an entrance?
Yes. The site plan is per ADA requirements.
And currently, this project is scheduled for the summer too, so it's going to be busy. Then we've also included the other set of plans on these for the smaller restrooms, staff and student. And then the Del Rio Freshman Life Skills renovation. We've been going back and forth with the architect, making some adjustments in some of that project scope and doing some value engineering, and we're going to have a lot more information during our operations workshop, which is scheduled for February 25th at 5:30. We'll be discussing a lot of these projects and getting some feedback from the board on that. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Dr. Rios.
Well, unfortunately, this project, we started with a budget of $500,000. And the architect designed a beautiful building, but we can't afford it with the money we've allotted. The construction costs alone were as high as $1.2 million. We try to work with the architect to reduce the cost without reducing the interior design. We even considered buying the drawings and building it ourselves, but we just want to have a discussion with the operations committee and see what existing money we can use to come up with as good a facility as we can, so that when we do jump into the project, it's well-funded and definitely something that the users told us they needed. So we just need to talk about it a little bit more and hopefully come up with a recommendation. There isn't a rush where we have to finish it by August. Dr. Aguirre and Mr. Cabello and Ms. Gomez, they'll come up with a good solution on how to house the students in that life skills unit in the meantime. So we just want to take our time and make the best decision so that we can have the best end product. So we'll hopefully by the next board meeting, since the operations committee will meet, we'll have a more definitive update.
I know we have received information that projected costs were above what we had initiated for the project, so conversation continues. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes,
Yeah, I've got one glaring question back on that Lonnie Green slide. If you can go back to that for me, please. The lot, yeah, this one here. So that's a brand new fence?
It is a brand new fence.
Y'all were on strict budget, or we couldn't put something down on the bottom? I mean, that's not gonna last the way that is, some structure on the bottom of that thing.
I will look into that, sir.
I guarantee you, Mr. Smith, that Mr. Scott Carcasey and the staff will already have planned to make it look as good as possible. We had them on a time crunch to hurry up and do it because parents were expressing concern.
Fair enough.
But I guarantee you that Mr. Carcasey's already got something in mind.
Put the cross on the T, he'll finish it. I'm calling.
Yes, sir. Is he here?
No, he's not. I'm sure we'll have a plan back to you just real soon on that, sir.
It could also be a bad picture, the photographer is more of a techie guy. That was definitely not one of Peter's pictures.
Well, that's true too. Sorry, Heck.
Anyone else? Thank you. Thank you so much. Continue with reports. Item 8E, food service update. Mr. Henry Arredondo.
Good evening, President Mesa, board members, Dr. Rios. We have a brief presentation on food service. We just wanted to give you an update with the investments that you have authorized. It's close to $700,000. $200,000 came in the form of grants, and another $500,000 that you've authorized to improve and invest in our cafeterias, which we have about 15, including the satellites, and we do prepare meals, over 2 million meals a year. And we have our service partner here, David Perales with SFE, that will take you through the presentation.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. Tonight we come to you to show you a snapshot of the events and the activities that we plan throughout the year, and I'll go over them slide by slide. Thank you. On our Roving Chef program, this program allows the students to learn as we engage with them to teach them about child nutrition. They get involved and they can cook the meals that we actually prepare for lunch. Our chef, David Gonzalez, and our nutritionist, Isa de la Garza, plan these events throughout the year at each campus, and they visit with the principals to schedule it, and the kids are invited. And then once they finish, they receive a certificate that they get to take home and share with their parents. And this is continual throughout the year. Okay. We also have a program that we introduced. It's called the Eat Your Alphabet program. Again, this program, kids learn about nutrition and fruit and vegetables through the alphabet. So we pick different items like, for example, kiwi or dragon fruit, and they sample them based on the alphabet. Now, the more they sample, they get rewarded. But this was a fun event. The kids get really involved, and they you can see as they go through this that they're excited, but they're very curious about what they're eating. But they enjoy it throughout the day. And again, our nutritionist and Chef Gonzalez help put this on throughout the year. In our health education, we are involved with the district consistently with healthy food cooking and demonstrations. Our Chef Gonzalez is involved with the Miss English to have the wellness demonstrations here at the SPC building, and we also do these at different campuses. We introduced our action stations this year. Now this is a bit of a flair that we can bring to the food service line with our food, and we serve different things like brisket and pulled pork and pulled beef, so we have these throughout the year. And the kids really excited because they get to see exactly what we're doing through those events. Along with those action stations, we do the carving stations, again, like brisket, and we do build your burgers, and we do other events. But again, it gives them the vision to see what we're doing right in front of them, and they get really excited to know that they're eating great food that day. We every year, again, we do our Thanksgiving dinner. Our staff goes above and beyond to prepare for this. As you can see, the children also get involved with dressing up. But every year we get excited to do this. We planned in September for this event for every November, so this is something we do real big. But it's a very good event. We see a lot of parents involved more. It keeps growing every year. In other ways to prepare our meals, we do taste testing. Our chef and nutritionists plan these testings, and then we invite the kids to come up, taste it, sample it, and then they turn in a survey based on what their likes or dislikes are. And this is one part of the puzzle of putting the menu together when we go through each month of picking ideas. So they are involved with helping in getting the menu selection. Another part of that menu planning is our student committees. We visit with the elementary students and the secondary students, and we ask them at a table what their likes and dislikes are. So many times they'll tell us what their favorites are, they'll tell us what they don't like, but this contributes to making a favorable menu for the kids so they can enjoy eating every day in the cafeteria. And this year we did introduce a couple of new items like the special banana yogurt split and scratch-made pancakes. So we did that. It was a big hit. I mean, we had staff and teachers running to the cafeteria trying to get their banana split. It was really good. We also participate with farmers markets, and these events are also nutritional, and we provide literature material for the different things that are grown and from the marketplace, and how we get it into the school district. The kids taste different items, vegetables, fruits. Again, it's just more open to the public because we do them at different events here. And as you know, we do our catering service for different events such as the board dinners, Leadership Del Rio, breakfasts for the principals. So this is another area that we tend to do this all year long, and we make ourselves available for all the events that we can do throughout the year. Now this one, I want to pause it here a little bit. This one I want to talk to you a little bit. SFE, we heard a lot of responses about what we can do to help, with online ordering. And we brought together here called mobile ordering. This is a part of our NutriSlice app. Okay, so we piloted this at Buena Vista this year just to see what we're going to get going. And really it's going well. So what happens is the teachers right now and the parents can order online through the NutriSlice app. They place their order, and this order is ready the next day. They have till 8 o'clock in the morning, and it'll cut off. And the cafeteria staff has done great things to help get these orders ready. And the children just come up to the front counter and pick up their meal. They pick it up. Now, the added features is that as a parent, they're able to know exactly what their kids are going to eat that day. So this is beneficial. There's no more secret about what my kids are eating when they choose and they build that menu. I want to just thank Buena Vista for just making that as easy as possible as we kick that off. And career fairs, we're constantly invited to these events, and we're happy to be there because we're able to interact with the children based on the food service industry. And we learn a lot from them, what they like and don't like, as far not only for the meals, but for the what they like to do at home. They say they cook with their parents, and they love it. They get involved. So we really are thankful that we're invited to these career fairs. We added some school meals here today. We just wanted to give y'all some visual on how our meals look and what we do to prepare them. And our ladies, they go out of their way, and they really take a passion on what they do. And we're happy that we're able to work with them every day, and they can demonstrate their passion for what they do. To build up a little more competition with the ladies, we do line contest decorations. They chose the Cinco de Mayo event. It's kind of close to home for everybody, but they go way out to do this. They take it to the next level, as you can see. And we have fun with it, they have fun with it, and they're proud of what they do. Now, here about our grant, we want to take a second here and just thank the board for the approving of the equipment that we were able to purchase this year. We had the refrigerations, ovens, warmers, all part of that event. And again, as you know, we do monthly safety and quality assurance training with our staff. All through the month and the years, we do safety with personal hygiene, food safety, temperatures. We also do like prevention of accidents, how to use a knife. So we do a lot of that. And our staff wanted to be part of this, so they wanted to say thank you as well. So again, thank you very much for your support.
I wanted to say
Any questions?
thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. First of all, we had a dining experience a couple of meetings back, and the sprinkler system was not initiated. Everything went well. It was it was awesome to see that Jeff's being there at our executive meeting and providing that experience for us. But I'm so glad to see so many things going on in the lunch program, in the offerings that are done, all the different programs that you have in place, and most importantly, to answer to the needs of the cafeteria staff, because there were some equipment that was not functioning well, and so that has been put in place by purchasing the much needed items that we're asking for. But I think all of us have seen the excitement of our young people when they're introduced to something different, and they participate in a lot of activities. So I'm glad to see that. Anyone else want to add?
Just a great job.
Yeah.
That's just great job, and maybe
Thank
you
you.
can extend that, build your meal app to us, and we can test it out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
It's not breakfast, but I want the banana yogurt one.
It's coming. It's coming. Thank you very much.
Sir, before you leave, I know you have other staff members here that the board doesn't know. Can you just quickly introduce everyone except Mr. Romero?
He left us.
Okay. We have our nutritionist that is very involved with our menus and all our education, is Isa de la Garza.
Hi, nice to meet you, Dr. Rios, Mr. Mesa, and board members.
We have David Gonzalez. A lot of y'all know Hollywood. He's on TV now. Chef David Gonzalez. And then we have Thomas Stone. He's our assistant general manager who's partnered with our company to help build this program even better.
Good evening. Mr. Romero, you're always welcome here, sir.
Everyone on the outside always asks me, how much do they pay you to be on the board? And I said, well, they give us a great meal. So thank you for the great meal.
Zero.
Okay, we're done with our reports. Again, thank you for the update. We go to consent agenda, item 9. There are some minutes of meetings that we've had, either workshops or regular meetings. And then again, one action will approve all items. If there's a question on any of the consent item agenda, if you would have that question ready for you. In the meantime, Mrs. Gonzalez, if you could read on the donations for us, please.
I was going to say, board members, it's fame, not fortune, but we love it. Okay. Is this thing working? Five Touch National School Studios donated $18.90 to Blended Academy, $2,063.40 to Buena Vista Elementary, $384.60 to Del Rio High School freshmen, $408 to Dr. Fermin Calderon Elementary, $643.26 to Roberto Bobby Barrera Elementary STEM Magnet School. Box Tops for Education donated $317.90 to Buena Vista Elementary, $142.90 to North Heights Elementary, $103.80 to Ruben Chavira Elementary. The Spot and Pro Shop donated $475 to Buena Vista Elementary Student Council, $100 to Dr. Lonnie Green Student Council, $110 to Ruben Chavira Elementary, $270 to Lamar Elementary, $125 to Garfield Elementary, $150 to San Felipe Memorial Middle School Robotics, $110 to Roberta Bobby Barrera Elementary STEM Magnet School Student Council, $275 to San Felipe Memorial Middle School Robotics. BSN donated $248 to Del Rio High School Softball. Mr. Gaddy's Pizza donated $116 to Del Rio High School Softball, $100.01 to San Felipe Memorial Middle School Robotics. Chick-fil-A donated $208.76 to Dr. Lonnie Green Elementary, $490.22 to North Heights Elementary. Walmart donated $1,500 to Dr. Lonnie Green Elementary. Legacy Realty, $100 to San Felipe Memorial Middle School Robotics, $150 to San Felipe Memorial Middle School Robotics. That's $200. Myra Robles Trevino, $10 Mr. Getty's game cards to Buena Vista Elementary. Donors choose 8 beanbag wobble chairs, estimated value $1,100 to Buena Vista Elementary 4th grade. Crystal Torres, 6 picture frames and 7 decorative pieces, estimated value $28 to Dr. Fermin Calderon Elementary. First United Methodist Church, 60 bags of food, estimated value of $600 to Garfield Elementary. Julio's Seasoning and Corn Chips Incorporated, 45 bags of chips, 26 containers of salsa, estimated value $205 to North Heights Elementary. Cassandra Soto, Yarn, Ribbons, and Stamps, estimated value $10 to North Heights Elementary. Mr. Gaddy's Pizza, meal tickets, estimated value $676.16 to North Heights Elementary. North Heights PTO, 728 bags of chips, estimated value $194.61 to North Heights Elementary. North Heights STEMS Booster Club, drinks, estimated value $100.16 to North Heights Elementary. Irene C. Cardwell Elementary received the following donations. Alabama and Texas National Guard, clothes, estimated value $400. American Electric Power, clothes and toys, estimated value $181. American GI Forum, clothes and toys, estimated value $178. Amigo Children's Dental, clothes and toys, estimated value $150. Amistad Physical Therapy, clothes and toys, estimated value $248. Cadena Family Practice, clothes and toys, estimated value $350. Christmas Around the World, clothes and toys, estimated value $960. Christopher Keachman, one set $25 gift card. Class of 1984, clothes, shoes, and toys, estimated value $350. Del Rio Club 4x4, toys, estimated value $730. Del Rio Host Lions Club, clothes and toys, estimated value $860. Dorica Matthews, clothes, estimated value $26. Heritage Academy, 4 boxes of canned goods, plates, sodas, and napkins, estimated value $30. Anita Mauricio, clothes and toys, estimated value $102. Marina Robles, clothes and toys, estimated value $250. Lisa Juarez, clothes and toys, estimated value $330. Melly's Yukis, 2 dozen cookies, or Melly's Cookies, 2 dozen cookies, estimated value $60. Honey Concepts, clothes and toys, estimated value $300. San Felipe Lions Club, 140 stuffed animals, estimated value $100. Starbucks coffee, estimated value $124. The Money Box, clothes and toys, estimated value $83.75. United States Border Patrol, Del Rio Sector, toys and clothes, estimated value $3,000. Vanessa Salas Photography, clothes and toys, estimated value $100. VFW Post 8552, clothes and toys, estimated value $250. Viola Guadiana and Brianna Guadiana Lopez, clothes and toys, estimated value $250. Expo Logistics, 70 pairs of shoes, estimated value $1,400. Thank you very much.
I think you skipped one. Could you start over? No, just kidding. Just as grateful. As always, we're grateful to individuals and businesses contribute again to our youth and our schools. Thank you to all the businesses and individuals for your donations. This time I will ask board members, again, there's some minutes. Are there any correction to the minutes of the meetings? Anything that needs to be pulled out, or if there's a question in regard to the consent agenda? This is the time to do that. We're okay? Wonderful. Wow. Okay, then I will ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda. There's a motion by Mr. Orfeld, seconded by Mr. Contreras. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Awesome. Okay. 10-minute break? Okay. Board wants to take a 10-minute break. We're okay. So we'll reconvene back into session at 8:52.
Principals, I know you're going to be at your campus by 7 a.m. tomorrow, so you can stay if you want, but you're free to go home or go wherever.
HEB. Okay, we're in a break, 10-minute break. Okay, we are going to start our meeting. We're down to item 10A, Administration Consideration to approve first reading of TASB Policy Update 114 affecting policies D, FFA local, DH local, EHBB local, FDE local, FFAA local. Sandra Hernandez.
Good evening, Mr. Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. This month, our Board Policy Review Committee continued with the next set of policies. There's a total of 18 policies under Update 114, but we are going to review 5 of them. Changes at Update 114 are based almost exclusively on legislation from the 86th regular legislative session. The recommendation revision to DFFA local policy on financial exigency was prompted by House Bill 3. The bill moved provisions from the Education Code, Chapter 42 to Chapter 48, and affected existing text on furloughs, which has been deleted as a cross-reference provides sufficient guidance to the relevant legal authority. Also, because BJA local permits the superintendent to delegate responsibilities to other employees, language referring to the superintendent's designee has been removed throughout this draft. House Bill 1143, this policy affects DH local, which is a policy for employee conduct. There have been no other revisions made to this policy other than that is affected from House Bill 1143. The local policy on gifted and talented students services, EHBB local, has been updated based on House Bill 3 and the newly adopted Texas State Plan for the Education of Gifted and Talented Students. House Bill 3 requires the district to adopt a policy regarding the use of funds to support the district's GT program. The bill also requires the district to annually certify to the commissioner that the district's GT program is consistent with the state GT plan, and report to the commissioner on the use of funds for the district's GT program. In FDE local, the revisions in this policy are based on the TEA's unsafe school choice option, which amends the list of violent criminal offenses for which a student is eligible for a transfer to another school within the district. Recommended revisions to FFAA local address new UIL rule requiring students who are participating in marching band to receive a pre-participation physical in accordance with the schedule established by the UIL. And I can answer any questions if the board has any.
Sandra, I know the committee had a question, but I'm trying to think. You were going to go back and check, but
I believe, sir, that the policy that you're referring to is DH local, and this one is House Bill 1143, which impacts employees, those that are that have open carry. And at this time, I am working with TASB to gain a much more clarification to see if there's any changes to that particular policy than is what is presented here today.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I remember asking a question there, and so we're going to get some more clarification.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Hearing none, would you read the recommendation, please?
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the first reading of TASB Policy Update 114 affecting policies DFFA local, reduction in force, financial exigency, DH local, employee standards of conduct, EHBB local, gifted and talented students, FDE local, admissions, school safety transfers, and FFAA local, wellness and health services, physical examinations, as presented by the Board Policy Review Committee.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion for approval? Mr. Smith, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We have no items under 11, curriculum instruction. We go to 12, technology and operations. A, consideration to approve the schematic design phase with Amistad Consulting. services for the driveway expansion at Buena Vista Elementary. Mr. Henge.
Good evening once again, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. This particular item, as we went through in our presentation tonight, will help move this project forward for the schematic design. If approved, then we will look to bring construction documents next month and be able to review those and compare those with the budget to be able to make decisions moving forward.
Okay. Questions?
The only question, back to the choice of pavement versus concrete, and I'm not sure I'm convinced about the one-off, if I need to put a fire truck on it, if that's going to damage it or not. But anyway, as far as the schematic layout, I'm not concerned. It's just the spec on concrete, if that's a necessary upgrade.
Dr. Rios.
We'll provide more detail at the operations committee. It's
Fair
part
enough.
of the agenda.
Anyone else? Hearing none, the recommendation, please.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the schematic design phase with Amistad Consulting Services Incorporated for the driveway expansion at Buena Vista Elementary.
With discussion in the operations committee in regard to pavement versus concrete. Okay, you've read the recommendation. Motion for approval. Mr. Smith, is there a second? Mr. Contreras, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Item 12B, consideration to approve schematic design phase with Jorge Peña Architects, JPA, for the restroom renovations at Del Rio Freshman School. Mr. Henge.
Thank you, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. This schematic design phase follows the same schedule as the previous agenda item. We would look to move forward with construction documents next month. And at that point, then again, we can review the budget, but we're anticipating that we are going to come within budget on that particular project.
Any questions from board members? We've heard the information prior, so recommendation, please.
Okay, it is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the schematic design phase with Jorge Peña Architects for the restroom renovations at Del Rio Freshman.
You've heard the recommendation from administration. I will entertain a motion for approval. Mr. Contreras, seconded by Mrs. Webb. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Item 12C, consideration to approve the schematic design phase for GOERO International LL, the limited license architects, for the Del Rio High School Commons area, ceiling renovations. Mr. Henge.
Thank you. This, again, is just like the other ones. We went through the presentation to show the proposed drawing as far as what that's going to look like, and we will have some more information and details on this particular project in the upcoming operations workshop as well.
Okay. We've had the information prior to this and heard the recommendation.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the schematic design phase with GOERO International LLC Architects for Del Rio High School Common Area Ceiling Renovations.
Motion made by Mr. Smith. Is there a second? Amy Haynes. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go on to 13, Business and Finance. First item we have under 13A, consideration to approve surrendering a bus to the insurance carrier. Mr. Arredondo.
Good evening, President Mesa, board members, Dr. Rios. Pursuant to Section 11.151C of the Education Code, all rights and titles to the school property of the district, whether real or personal, shall be vested in the trustees and their successors in office. The trustees may, in an appropriate manner, dispose of property that is no longer necessary for the operation of the school district. An accident occurred on January the 8th, 2020, between a yellow bus traveling southbound on 1300 block of Kingsway, approaching the intersection of Vista Park Drive. No students were present. The driver temporarily lost his vision and crashed through a fence and a storage unit where bus came to a stop. Driver was taken to Valverde Regional Medical Center for evaluation and drug testing. The medical staff determined that the accident was related to a possible allergic reaction to medication that was taken 1 to 2 hours prior to the accident. The TASB claims adjuster determined that the vehicle be a total loss. The district will be compensated the actual cash value of $29,174 less the $1,000 deductible for a total of $28,174. If the district decides to keep the bus, then a salvage title will be issued, and the actual cash value of $29,174 less the $1,000 deductible and $1,450 salvage value for a total of $26,724. Due to the risk and the liability of transporting students with a salvage bus, surrendering is a more prudent and safer option.
Any questions from board members? I think all of us understand pretty much. Recommendation, please.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve surrendering the bus number 137 with a VIN number 1GB3G3BG XD1177549 and be compensated $28,174.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion for approval? Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Gonzalez. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Item 13B, consideration to adopt resolution authorizing emergency procurement. Mr. Arredondo.
Okay, good evening once again. Pursuant to section 44.031H of the Texas Education Code, in order for the school personnel to correct the problem in a timely manner caused by an emergency, the board must first declare that an emergency exists. By declaring that an emergency exists, the administration is not bound by the bidding requirements of the state. The administration will attempt to do all work at the lowest possible price using price codes. In the early morning hours of Saturday, February the 8th, 2020, administration received reports from the Information Technology Department that certain network systems and devices had been infected with malware ransomware. The district incident response team took immediate action and cybersecurity event triage procedures were followed. Appropriate vendors and service providers were engaged to prevent further harm to the district and to mitigate the event and cybersecurity threat. Additional services have been identified that are necessary to prevent further harm or interference with essential school activity. I have a resolution to read. A resolution declaring emergency for bidding purposes, whereas the San Felipe Del Rio CISD district has experienced a cybersecurity event that has caused damage to the school's technology and information systems. And whereas the district needs to take every effort to make the repairs happen expeditiously in order to allow essential work functions to resume and to mitigate against further damage or harm. And whereas the district needs to ensure that essential school activities resume as quickly as possible, and whereas the present condition necessitates the application of section 44.03H of Texas Education Code for emergency procurements necessary to address and remedy the situation. Be it therefore resolved that the Board of the San Felipe Del Rio CISD determines and declares that, number one, the foregoing recitals are hereby found to be true and correct and are adopted and incorporated herein by reference as findings of fact. Number two, the district has experienced the aforementioned damage. Number three, the delay imposed by use of the procurement and contract methods required in section 44.031 of the Texas Education Code would prevent or substantially impair the conduct of essential school activities. Number four, the delay imposed by use of the purchasing procedures required in the district's local policies would prevent or substantially impair the conduct of essential school activities. And number five, furthermore, the board ratifies and approves of the emergency procurement decisions and engagements made by the superintendent related to this event. Be it further resolved that pursuant to section 44.031H of the Texas Education Code, the Board of Trustees directs and authorizes the administration to procure necessary goods and services required to secure the safety of the situation at the campus without regard to the otherwise applicable purchasing requirements of the Texas Education Code and of the local district policy.
Questions from board members?
You know, the only, it's really not a question, it's just a matter of technicality. When we go back into here, I just didn't like when this talks about a policy update. We're not talking about a policy update, we're just talking about
just the event.
Just the event, and I'm cool with that, yeah.
Mr. Redondo, I have a question. Just would there be a cap amount? Yes, Dr. Rios.
There wouldn't be a cap amount, but I would not commit to spending any more than what TASB would eventually reimburse us without coming to the board for approval. That would involve Mr. Henge checking with TASB to see what they would reimburse. So the cap in this case would be $100,000 and only provided that TASB approves of a reimbursement.
I understand the emergency. I just want to make sure that, that was answered. Okay. Anyone else? Hearing none, the recommendation, please.
Okay, it is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees adopt a resolution declaring that an emergency situation exists that would prevent or substantially impair the conduct of essential school activities and approval of emergency repair and remediation services.
For the recommendation, motion for approval, Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Gonzalez. All those in favor?
Sorry, before we take a vote, just to make sure that this is strictly controlled, where it says authorizes the administration, can we say authorizes the superintendent, just to make sure that everything goes through me and that we keep it under the cap? So can we amend the resolution to just say superintendent instead of administration?
Makes sense to me.
Fine with that. Anybody else?
We have another motion to amend the resolution.
Motion to amend as
Okay.
presented.
There's been a motion to amend as presented to include, instead of administrator, to include superintendent. So the motion has been amended. Motion has been approved once. Would you approve the amended recommendation? Motion. Is there a second, Ms. Gonzalez? All those in favor? Okay, motion carries unanimously with the amendment. We go on to Human Service Resources. 14A, consideration to approve the new addition of a network administrative position to the Technology Department. Isaiah Garcia.
Good evening again. Administration is requesting board approval for the creation of a network administrator position for the Technology Department. The addition of this position will assist and support the Technology Department with Senate Bill 820, Cybersecurity Initiative. The starting pay for this position is $62,783 to $78,479, depending on job-related experience. Any questions?
The reporting structure for this position, I'm
sorry.
This would report directly to the Director of Technology. Right now, the active Director of Technology is Mr. Henge, but that's what it's intended to be. The history behind this is that we're short a Director of Technology. He's battling some health issues. So rather than post for a Director of Technology, we believe that we can get Mr. Henge some added help with his added position. Financially, we're not spending any more money because of the position that's not being paid for right now. But that person would report to the Director of Technology.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Recommendation, please.
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the new network administrator position for the Technology Department.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion for approval? Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Gonzalez. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We have no items under 15, Student Services, no items under Security. 16, we go into closed session. We are permitted to go into closed session by sections 551.071, 551.072, 551.072, 551.073, 551.074, 551.076, 551.082, 551.084, and 551.087 of the Government Code, Texas Open Meetings Act. If a final vote is required, it will be taken when the board reconvenes into open session. The time is 9:14 p.m. We are now in closed session. Okay, the time is 10:46 p.m. The board will now reconvene into open session. No action was taken in executive session. We're down to item 18A. Take action on closed session items, level 3 grievance hearing on Victoria Ortiz parent. Is there a motion on this matter? Hearing no motion, this matter is concluded. Item 18B, level 3 grievance hearing on Alejandra Hernandez. This is going to be tabled till March, the March meeting. Any questions in regard to that matter? It will be tabled for the March meeting. Item 18C, consideration to approve the personnel report to include the following: new hires, district vacancies, retirements, resignations. Ade Garcia.
Good evening again. It is the recommendation of administration to approve the following new personnel: Elizabeth Dillon, 3rd grade teacher at Ruben Chavira Elementary; Lily Gomez, music teacher at Dr. Fermin Calderon Elementary.
You've heard the recommendation from the administration. Is there a motion for approval? Mrs. Webb, motion, seconded by Mr. Contreras. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Item 18D, possible action regarding proposed recommendation for termination of Chapter 21 term contract employee, Aide Garcia.
I think.
Okay.
Is there a motion in
Yes,
regard?
sir. Mr. President Mesa, I move to approve the proposed termination of the Chapter 21 term contract employee as discussed in closed session.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion for approval? Motion seconded by Mr. Smith. Motion made by Mr. Contreras. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Item 19A, superintendent, there's no superintendent's report, but there is a need for a special call meeting for March 3rd or 4th. Dr. Rios.
Yes, sir. Mr. Russell, members of the board, the district will be presenting to the board the selling of the bonds for the construction of the new elementary school. And that, because of the time, it needs to be done on either March 3rd or March 4th. We had scheduled it for March 3rd with March 4th as a backup date. So are y'all, do y'all have any feedback as to March 3rd being a good or a bad day?
What is the 3rd?
3rd's election day, or primary day.
3rd is election day. Yeah, might as well. 4th, is 4th okay? Anyone have any objection to it? You're okay, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I'm gonna say the 4th of March. We're talking about a 5:30, 6 o'clock kind of deal, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I'm good.
Okay. Everyone else, March 4th.
Okay. March 4th it is. And then item B, Mr. Mesa?
Yes.
The school district will be on spring break the week of March 9th, Monday, March 9th. Because all the personnel will be gone, it'll be impossible to be prepared for a March 16th for regular school board meeting. Therefore, the recommendation would be that the March meeting be scheduled for March 23rd, which would be the 4th Sunday in March. fourth Monday in March instead of the third Monday. There's really no other way to have it, so.
We've done that
That'll
before.
just move the cadence out from there on for April, May, and those will be the third week as well.
Yes, sir. April and May, those will continue to be the third Monday.
Okay.
For April and May. There'll be some other meetings due to the budget season, but the regular board meetings will be on the third Monday.
We've done that in the past, so. Okay. Everybody's okay with that? Okay, great. Then, there being no other items on the agenda, is there a motion for adjournment? Mr. Overfeld, seconded by Mr. Contreras. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned. Thank you and good night.